This is Korea News for April 8, 2022. Despite the decrease in the school-age population, the number of students who passed the elementary school teacher appointment test but did not become teachers continues to increase as the number of shifts is maintained. According to the Office of the People's Strength Counselor Cho My-Young-hee on the 7th, out of the 216 people who passed the elementary school appointment test in Seoul in February this year, except for one who was on probation for military service, all were not assigned. This is because 54 out of 303 people who passed the recruitment test last year have not yet been assigned. The candidates who passed the Seoul Elementary School recruitment test this year are expected to be appointed in order of grades from next year, depending on the situation in which 54 students were issued last year in September this year. In Seoul, as the demand for new teachers decreased significantly, the number of people selected for the examination was reduced by 29% compared to the previous year at 201, but this did not prevent a large-scale non-provision. In the Incheon area, 100 of the 207 successful applicants have not been dispatched. In Gyeonggi Province, where there is a lot of new school construction due to new towns, 567 out of 1,407 successful applicants were found not to have been assigned. In some areas, the number of people selected for the recruitment examination has been drastically reduced. In Gwangju this year, there were 5 people who passed the recruitment test, and only 11 in Daejeon. Even though the demand for new teachers is decreasing, the number of quota discharged from universities is similar every year. College students take the elementary school appointment test again and take the third test, and after passing the admission test, they have not been issued for about a year. In order to solve this problem, a teacher reappointment test that periodically verifies the skills of incumbent teachers is conducted to expel teachers with no skills from the denomination, and young and talented pre-service teachers who have not been assigned due to lack of space even after passing the appointment test. It is necessary to increase the quality of public education by putting them all into the denomination. The government, which is a sucker for vaccines that are discarded in large numbers, has cancelled the introduction of 17.48 million doses of the corona vaccine scheduled to be brought in this year. This is the first time that the introduction of a contracted vaccine has been cancelled. According to the quarantine authorities on the 7th, the government decided not to receive 17.48 million doses of the corona vaccine that it was supposed to import this year through the COVAX facility. Most of the expenses paid are refunded. A government official said, the small amount that has already been distributed to Korea is non-refundable and will be donated overseas after paying the cost. This measure was implemented as the number of COVID-19 vaccines recently declined. The daily use of vaccines in Korea, which once increased to 1.36 million doses, has recently decreased to around 20,000. The number of discarded vaccines this year reached 640,000 doses by the 22nd of last month. There are 17 million doses of vaccines that have not yet been used. The government formed a pan-government task force to negotiate the readjustment of 125.94 million doses of vaccines contracted this year with individual pharmaceutical companies such as Pfizer and Moderna. Since the shelf life of the mRNA vaccine is only 6 to 9 months, we plan to negotiate by receiving more than the required amount after next year. However, it is known that it is difficult in terms of contract to reduce the total amount introduced. Last August, the government dispatched a delegation to the United States. This was to urge a smooth supply as the importation of the corona vaccine made by Moderna into Korea continued to be delayed. Now, 8 months later, the situation has been reversed. The government is looking for a way to slowly bring in the 125.94 million doses of vaccine it has contracted to receive this year. This is because, with most of the adults vaccinated, discarding the vaccine due to an oversupply is becoming a reality. The 17.48 million doses of vaccine, which have been cancelled in Korea this time, are the amount of the contract with COVAX facility. The purpose of this organization is to distribute vaccines equally around the world. The problem is the supply contracts with private companies such as Pfizer and Moderna. There are still 125.94 million doses of vaccine that the government has contracted with them to introduce this year. About 143 million servings, including the current inventory, will be accumulated in Korea. The recent vaccination rate is about 20,000 per day, which is an amount that can be vaccinated for over 19 years. Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are known to cost at least 20,000 won per serving. If a new vaccination demand cannot be found or an existing contract cannot be changed, controversy may arise about wasting the national treasury. Vaccination rates have slowed significantly because no one is getting it. 96.4% of adults 18 years of age and older completed the second dose. In the elderly aged 60 years or older, 89.2% completed the third dose. In order to minimize discarded vaccines, the government made it official on the 7th that it is considering the fourth vaccination for the general elderly. If this plan is realized, the number of subjects to be vaccinated could again increase significantly. In Korea, 1.8 million people, including those with weakened immunity and those living in nursing homes and facilities, are eligible for the fourth dose, of which only about 300,000 were vaccinated. It is still under discussion as to how old the elderly who will receive the fourth dose should be. The government is also considering recommending a third vaccination for those who have had COVID-19 once. Currently, only the second vaccination is recommended for those who have recovered from COVID-19. Considering that 14.77 million people have been diagnosed with COVID-19 following the outbreak of Omicron mutation, the demand for additional vaccinations is not small. In a situation in which discarded vaccines such as Pfizer and Moderna are being discarded, the government should never leave the government unattended, which signed about 10 million unapproved vaccines under development by SK Bioscience. I think it is reasonable to hold Moon Jae-in, the chief executive responsible for vaccine introduction, legally responsible. Lee Eun-ha, who is accused of murdering her husband in the Gapyeong Valley in Gyeonggi Province, is said to have visited her husband's house after the incident and took all of her remaining security deposit. Lee visited the basement of a townhouse in Suwon, Gyeonggi-do, where she lived a month after her husband Yoon's death. Then, after meeting with her landlord and signing it, she took the remaining deposit of 1 million won. Originally, the room was 500,000 won per month with a 3 million won deposit, but 2 million won was deducted because Yoon, who was suffering from hardships, couldn't pay the monthly rent for 4 months. After her marriage in 2016, Mr. Lee revealed that she did not live together even though Mr. Yoon had arranged her honeymoon, and she continued her separation for several reasons. The real estate agent whom she met at the time of the contract for her newlywed house said, "It didn't look like a newlywed couple." She said, "I didn't even get a house," she said. She said that she thought it was uncommon because her friends said they were living there. In the end, Mr. Yoon moved around the semi-basement, and Mr. Lee took the economic rights of his couple. Lee did not meet Yoon, who lived separately, often, and she did not provide any financial support. Yoon's difficult situation at the time is also contained in her couple's Kakao Talk conversation, which was revealed through a social network service in the past. Mostly, Mr. Yoon asked Mr. Lee for help, and he said, "The electricity will be cut off soon. It's 3 months, and it's 38,000 won. I've been saving, please help me. Eun-jae, I'm so hungry. I want to buy glasses, and I want to buy sneakers. I don't even have money to buy ramen. When the money comes in, I'll buy my husband glasses and sneakers." I was embarrassed because my shoes were torn and said, "Please deposit only 10,000 won. Let's buy a packed lunch and bottled water at the convenience store. I have nowhere to borrow money," and so on. He continued, "I'm sorry," he said, "you must be busy, but I don't have to call you. I'm sorry for asking like this." She also emphasized that she was not lying when she delivered a passbook statement where the balance captured by the banking application was 0. Yoon worked as a researcher at a large corporation for 15 years and received an annual salary of 60 million won. Before his marriage, he was well on his way, and it is known that he even applied for his personal rehabilitation around the time of his death. Yoon's older sister said in her national petition that, even though she worked hard at her job, she left a lot of debt in front of her younger brother without a single balance, she said. After the first investigation by the prosecution on December 13 last year, Mr. Lee disappeared with his accomplice mate Jo Hyun-soo, and his whereabouts are unknown for 4 months. On the 30th of last month, the prosecution wanted some of the faces and identities of Mr. Lee and Mr. Cho and switched them to an open investigation, but they have not yet received any decisive information necessary for the arrest. Their acquaintance and another accomplice, Man A, is currently under investigation for murder and other charges. Thank you for watching today. Please like and subscribe.